Calling to order the regular Plan Commission meeting for Thursday, March 8th, 2018. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Commissioner Panova.
Here.
Commissioner Creech.
Present.
Commissioner Dorban.
I'm here.
Commissioner Kalis.
Good evening.
Commissioner Powers is here, and Chairman Johnson.
Here. Ms. Jones, any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I have one change regarding item 7C, that is docket number 2018-3A and B, Mexico Mufflers and Brakes, 1210 North Elmhurst Road. The petitioner has requested that the item be continued to March 22nd. They would like to continue without discussion this evening. So when we come to that item on the agenda, I ask that the Plan Commission continue it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Not at this time.
Okay, citizens' concerns and comments. Mr. Secretary?
Citizens' concerns and comments at other village public bodies meetings. Members of the general public may address the Plan Commission with concerns or comments regarding issues relevant to the Plan Commission's agenda or topics that the Plan Commission has the authority pursuant to the village code to address. The chairperson or his or her designee shall strictly restrain comments to matters that are relevant to Plan Commission's business and shall not permit repetitious comments or arguments. Members of the general public who wish to address the Plan Commission must sign a request to speak prior to the commencement of the public meeting. The person submitting a petition, concern, or other comment shall be allotted 5 minutes to present their points. Mr. Stylen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. A few weeks ago, I was before you talking about property maintenance, and the Commission reported to me that they really didn't have any control over property maintenance issues or deterioration, that was covered under other ordinances and policies and procedures that the Plan Commission wasn't responsible for. I did a little bit more research, and in Title II, Section 54.050, under Powers and Duties, one of the first comment is the Plan Commission shall have the following powers and duties. And you all know, you've been advised by the lawyer that the word shall has some super crazy special meaning. It doesn't mean should, it doesn't mean could, it doesn't mean must. It means something above that it's gotta be done, has to be, whatever. And let me hand this out. If you pass those around. Can't turn my own page. Of the 17 things that the Plan Commission is responsible for, number 15 specifically says to promote and encourage aesthetic growth in the community. And I looked up aesthetic growth, and it says something that is pleasing to the city, and to work against the deterioration of visual character, harmony, and beauty of the village. Now, I don't know all exactly what that means, but they did say work against deterioration, which I would assume property maintenance probably would fall into that deterioration category. And in section 2.54.070 under reporting on improvement regulations, it specifically says the Director of Community Development shall furnish the Plan Commission And notice again that word shall. It doesn't mean could, doesn't mean would. It means has to furnish to the Plan Commission for its consideration a copy of all ordinances, plans, data relevant to public improvements of any nature the Plan Commission may report in relation thereto if it deems a report necessary or advisable for consideration of the Village Board of Trustees. Again, I'm not a legal guy. I'm not sure exactly what it means, but because you don't know what the International 2012 Property Standard regulations, ordinances, whatever, that you are holding our village citizenry to, I would assume that I would like to interpret at least that the Director of Community Development should provide to you copies of the International Standard Property Maintenance Manual. That would give you complete understanding of what's going on in terms of property maintenance and allow you to offer suggestions as you're required to the village board on anything that you feel might be different. Now, I will add, I did a little bit further research into the International Standard Property Maintenance Ordinance, and in section 304.2 of that manual that I can't give to you because that would be a copyright infringement, it does talk about things like peeling and flaking and chip paint shall, there's that word again, be eliminated and surfaces repainted. And it also talks that all surfaces with rust or corrosion shall, again that magic word, be stabilized and coated to inhibit future rust and corrosion. So I think those are a few things that need to be done around the village. There is a lot of peeling paint, and I would hope that maybe you have a discussion with staff at some point in time if you have any responsibility for looking into the deterioration of entities in this town. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
That's it? Okay. We have no consent items tonight, so items for review, 7A, docket number PC 18-4, Wheeling Town Center, 351 West Dundee Road, approval of final plat of subdivision. Ms. Jones?
I have nothing at this time.
Mr. Friedman,
I
welcome
have
back.
nothing at this time either.
Okay. I'll go home.
So, Brooke, if you just want to pull up that one slide that shows the IDOT sliver, I think that'll help really explain things. So this was the plat that was supposed to be recorded, but then we found out that there was this IDOT-owned piece of parcel, which is the highlighted sliver. So we had to make adjustments in order to omit Lot 7 and a portion of Northgate Parkway from the plat in order to get our initial land conveyance to start construction. We've been working with IDOT for a long time now. We finally acquired this parcel. We're going to get the deed any day now. We've already made the payment and all the paperwork, and so now we need to amend the plat and reincorporate this sliver, this IDOT fragment leftover right-of-way parcel into the amended plat of subdivision so we can build buildings F and G, which are part of Lot 7.
Okay.
That's it.
Any questions from the commission? Mr. Creech?
I have nothing.
Mr. Kalis?
No questions.
Ms. Dorband?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Blanova?
Nothing, thank you.
And Mr. Fowler?
I have nothing.
And I have nothing either. Brooke has a couple things.
We have a couple of conditions that were not listed in the staff report. One of them is in relation to a stormwater easement. It's noted in the red lines here. This is an exhibit from our village engineer. One of the conditions of approval we'd like to attach to this docket is modifications to the plat are subject to final review and comments from the village attorney and village engineer, and also that the plat shall include a public stormwater easement as shown in the easement exhibit provided by the village engineer.
So, Brooke, you probably don't know this, but we can't do that.
Okay.
So,
That's news to me. Yes.
yeah, we literally just, this TAC just sent this to me like on Tuesday, and I sent it over to our civil engineer, and we talked to our general contractors. I mean, unless you guys can magically install what it is that you want within the next 4 weeks, we just can't do it. We're breaking ground next month. We're pouring the foundation for the Starbucks pad. We have delivery dates that we have to meet. We can't have you going in there and ripping up work that's going to interfere with our delivery of the Starbucks pad.
It's my understanding that this easement is outside of the building. Yeah, first start off with, I have not been intimately involved with this project. Obviously John Tack has, but it's my understanding that this easement is outside of the building foundations.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right in the drive-through lane
Okay,
for the Starbucks.
okay.
So, I mean, listen, we have delivery dates we have to meet for Starbucks. If you guys want to cut through a portion of Lot 3 and then angle the pipe across the street, that's fine. But
Okay, that's going to be a conversation.
we have a signed, we have an executed lease, we have delivery dates we have to meet. It's just not going to work, guys. I'm sorry. I really am. You kind of pulled this on us last minute. That's just not appropriate.
Okay.
We've been working with John Tack on the extension of the pipe to go across Dundee. That's been the plan all along, and this kind of just was thrown at us last minute. It totally puts a wrench in our construction schedule and interferes with the delivery dates that we have promised to our retail tenants.
Okay, that's a conversation that's going to have to be had with John Tack. Like I said,
We did. We had the, and Ferrolo, we've had that conversation. I
Okay.
mean, so I'm really sorry, guys.
I think for the record, this is staff's recommendation, and this is not the final body that approves the plat.
Right, yeah, it's a.
But I think we need to move it forward, I think, in the time of, because of.
We do,
uniqueness.
yeah. And again, I
Right.
want to work with you guys, and we came up with an alternative solution. I understand that this is Plan B, because if you can't get the easement from the property owner on the other side of Dundee, then you're like, oh, well, we'll just get the easement from the town center guys. And again, I really do want to cooperate with you, but like, had we known about this a while ago, that would have been fine. And then we could have done the site work any time up until now, but it's just too late. We can't have you interfere with the construction of the Starbucks pad and the delivery of that to the tenant. We have dates we have to meet.
Yeah, I mean, because I think we need to work it out, I know that's staff's recommendation. It's up to the plan commission if they want to include it in the condition, and it might get worked out before the board meeting, but.
Or you could take out that condition relative to this document that's on the overhead right now, and just leave the condition that modifications on the plat are subject to final review and comments from the village attorney and village engineer, and then hopefully both parties can come to agreement.
Yeah, that's fine.
Then at least.
Yeah, and we could,
come back to
and
us.
like I said, we could give you the easement for Lot 3, we just can't give it to you for Lot 2.
Okay.
Because that's where the Starbucks pad is going, and we're literally going to be doing all that site work in April. And again, if you can install what it is that you want to install before April, have at it, but anytime after that, you're going to put a wrench in our construction schedule, so.
Okay, so I struck that one from our
Kyle, can you
list of
better
conditions.
explain what it is?
See, and that's why I prefaced with, I have not been intimately involved with this, but I think this easement has something to do with the.
It's the
pipe that
72-inch
goes- yeah,
stormwater pipe.
The pipe that
Okay.
goes under Dundee Road to help convey stormwater, comp storage credits, whatever, from the developments to the north. That's what this easement is going to assist with. My original understanding was that the easement was just, my original understanding was that the 72-inch pipe that's currently on the eastern edge of the property was just going to go straight across the street. That's why I'm not too sure what this easement is for. But like I said, that's why, John's been handling this.
It's Plan B.
Okay.
If you can't get an easement from the property owner on the other side of Dundee, which, it just became news to me that you guys were not finalized with that negotiation yet, so.
Okay, so,
I know you have Plan C, which is to do the pipe on an angle, and I know that adds cost. And so to assist and make it less of an angle, we said, well, you can cut across lot 3 and then angle across, so then maybe it's not as extensive of an angle and it wouldn't have such an impact on the cost. So, again, trying to work with you guys, do whatever I can to help out.
Okay, well, I think all of these options would be covered under the statement that modifications to the plat are subject to final review and comments from the village attorney and village engineer.
Yeah, I'm totally cool
Okay.
with that.
okay, so is that the only condition?
The other condition was stated in the staff report that the Plan Commission Chair and Secretary sign the document and forward the recommendation to the corporate authorities for review and consideration.
If you could include the word shall, that would make it perfect.
Okay.
I shall make a motion.
Shall, okay.
It'll be second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Power, seconded by Commissioner Blanova. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorban?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Why was this brought up at the last moment? Is there a reason? I mean, did something occur that made you bring this up that it didn't?
We didn't have, this came to us late last week. We didn't have time to do a thorough, review. Staff didn't have time, and these comments came to us from the engineering division today.
We'll have something for you to sign.
All right.
Shall I have something for you?
Shall.
I shall sign it.
We shall get out.
Yes, you shall.
Is this permanent?
No. Tim's at spring training. You didn't miss any announcements.
Okay.
Thanks.
I was just gonna say, Jim always gives me, something to sign.
Well, I wouldn't want you to feel left out.
Thanks.
Yep.
This is my copy.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks, guys.
Keep going, Brad.
Thank you. That's my pen.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take it easy on these guys.
Thought you were reaching for something. All right, moving on to 7B. Docket numbers 2017-19, A, B, C, D, and E. These were all continued from January 25th without discussion. For Pete's Perfection, 435 South Wheeling Road. 2017-19A is rezoning from MXT Mixed Use Transit Oriented District and I-4 Heavy Industrial District to I-3 General Industrial District. 2017-19B is special use site plan approval for heavy motor vehicle outdoor storage. 2017-19C, special use site plan approval for a heavy motor vehicle parking lot. 2017-19D, special use site plan approval for heavy motor vehicle repair. And 2017-19E, zoning variations related to parking setback and minimum green space. Mr. Secretary.
Docket number 2017-19, A, B, C, and D. Perfection Building Corporation property owner is seeking the following actions for 435 South Wheeling Road. 2017-19A, rezoning the property which is split zone from MXT Transit Oriented Mixed Use District and I-4 Heavy Industrial District to a single zoning designation I-3 General Industrial District. 2017-19B Special Use Site Plan Approval is required under Chapter 19-07 Industrial Districts, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations, and Chapter 19-12 Site Plan Approval Requirements and associated sections in order to establish heavy motor vehicle outdoor storage in the I-3 General Industrial District. 2017-19C Special Use and Site Plan Approval is required under Chapter 19-07 Industrial Districts, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations, and Chapter 19-12 Site Plan Approval Requirements and associated sections in order to establish a heavy motor vehicle parking lot in the I-3 General Industrial District. And 2017-19D Special Use Site Plan Approval is required under Chapter 19-07 Industrial Districts, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations, and Chapter 19-12 Site Plan Approval Requirements and associated sections in order to establish heavy motor vehicle repair in the I-3 General Industrial District. Standards for variation. A zoning variation is intended to be a method of adjustment to equalize regulations where Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning has created an unnecessary hardship. A variation is designed to allow affected property owners the same rights and privileges that others enjoy in the same zoning district. In order to be granted a variation, a petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at the public hearing why the request meets the conditions of the village code, including but not limited to how their individual situation is unique or unusual. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that their request for a variation meets the standards established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board. Standards for a special use. A zoning special use is defined in Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning as a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to circumstances or effects on the surrounding properties that may adversely affect them. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at the public hearing why the request meets the conditions of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed, how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or the use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request for a special use meets the standards established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. You earned your money tonight.
Yeah, I did.
Ms. Jones, anything?
Not at this time.
All right, then have the petitioner come up. And anyone who's going to speak tonight has to be present. This is a public hearing. Anyone else gonna?
Yes.
Do you swear the testimony you're going to give tonight is the truth?
Yes.
Okay. And as you come up, please give your name and business address for the record, I guess. We don't have our recording secretary here, so just, if it's complicated, please spell it out.
Sure. Good evening, Chairman Johnson, members of the Plan Commission, village staff. My name is Justin Silva. I'm an attorney with Shapiro and Associates. Our address is 618 Academy Drive, Suite B in Northbrook, Illinois. With me tonight is also the petitioner, Mr. Peter Aiello. He is also the owner of the property and owns Pete's Perfection Plus. We also have our engineer with us as well, Mr. Kevin Lewis, who is with IG Consulting. They will be speaking after me as well. We did submit a fairly lengthy narrative. Rather than go through it all, what I'd like to do is just kind of give you the Reader's Digest and hit the main points.
Please.
just for brevity, and then we can go from there. Brooke, if you wouldn't mind, if I could ask you maybe to put the aerial picture might be helpful just at the beginning. That would be great.
This one?
That helps out, yeah. Just to give some background on the subject property, the property is located at 435 South Wheeling Road. It sits south of Dundee Road, and it's north of Hintz Road. It runs almost on a diagonal perpendicular to the Commonwealth easement power lines, as you can see kind of up in the picture there. The property is 1 acre approximately. It's been improved with a 15,000 square foot building that is largely a repair garage with some office space in front of that. The property is surrounded in terms of zoning districts by I-2 to the west. To the north is MXT, and there's some industrial uses occurring there as well. And directly to the south of us has been rezoned I-4 most recently. Just to kind of Reader's Digest on the background of the property to give you some context as to why we're here and what we're asking for. In 2005, Pete received a special use for the property. During that time, under the zoning ordinance, it was referred to as hauling and storage yard. That use, or those uses, no longer exist. The property was also zoned I-3 at that time as well. There were, as part of the special use, there were conditions that he fulfilled, such as landscaping, adding fences. At that time, there was also some conditions on the property. There was 8% green space on the property as well. And the property consisted of, it was under an acre, so it was 0.85 acres. As part of the condition to his special use, he leased a portion where you see those trucks kind of lined up. He leased a portion of the property from the village as part of a condition to use that as storage and parking. And that lease was basically on the commercial drive right-of-way that exists. And he leased that property all the way up from basically 2005 up until looks like approximately 2016, and operated his business using that property and paying lease payments to the village. Around right after he received the special use, the property was rezoned, and it was rezoned via a village comprehensive map amendment, and they rezoned it to MXT, which made it a legal non-conforming use at that time. So he'd been operating the property as a legal non-conforming use under MXT, still operating as an industrial type of use. As a result of that, he's been non-conforming ever since, which we're kind of the process as to why we're here is to get him conforming for a number of reasons. In 2016, the property to the south of the subject property here was rezoned to I-4. And when that happened, a portion of the right-of-way, which is the commercial drive, which is really that grassed-in area that you can see to the south of the property, was also rezoned I-4 as well. So it's basically, it was a vacated, unimproved right-of-way that was not used by the village but was rented out by Pete. In roughly 2017, the village vacated the right-of-way, and Pete purchased basically 50% of that right-of-way to the north, and the owners of the south property purchased the additional southern, we'll call it southern, portion of the right-of-way. And really what we're trying to do now is Pete would like to utilize that portion that he's purchased, which is roughly 0.2 acres, and continue to operate his business, but utilize that property, which doesn't sound like a very complicated matter, but there is unfortunately a lot of several zoning steps, as you just read, to get us to that point. That being said, since he is legal non-conforming, we are unable to expand the property and the use. So when we were reviewing this first with staff, it was what do we do in this type of situation? And we had nice conversations with staff, and they were very helpful in kind of explaining our options. And we basically determined that first we would have to rezone the property, because as is right now, it's split zoned, which is not good for the petitioner for a variety of reasons in terms of refinancing, selling, insurance. So the portion, most of the portion is MXT, the southern portion is I-4. So we first decided on what's the best district to rezone to. We kind of debated back and forth between I-3 and I-4, and kind of settled on I-3 because we thought it was an appropriate buffer between MXT to the north and I-4 to the south and I-2 to the west. That being said, it was also the size of the property didn't make sense to go for I-4 because it was an acre, and your code requires, I believe, over 5 acres for an I-4. So that's kind of our first step, is why we're asking for the rezoning of the entire property, so it's all within one zoning district at this point. We also, since we have the special amendment, the special use permit, we're seeking to amend that to allow for uses that at the time didn't occur under your code. So when we talked with staff, the prior use, which was the hauling, hauling storage yard, no longer exists, and staff felt that the most similar use to that was heavy motor vehicle repair, storage, and parking. Those are all separate special uses under your code. So hence our application for those. We're really just trying to update and amend the special use so it's accurate with your current zoning. And that's what's occurring on the property and has been occurring on the property for the past 10 years since Pete has been operating it. And then third, we're seeking 2 variances. Those variances, as were briefly mentioned, is the reduction in the green space and the setback for parking. And I will have, at this point, I'm going to ask Kevin Lewis to come up. He's the engineer, and he'll kind of go over the site plan for you in a little more detail and explain kind of what we're doing and the portion that we're redeveloping, essentially.
Okay.
Good evening, I'm Kevin Lewis. I'm with IG Consulting, 300 Markworth Drive in Wheeling. Thank you, Justin and Commissioners. This is the overall site plan of the property that he was describing. The building, it's a little bit light in this image that I'm looking at. Maybe it's better on your screen, but the building kind of sits in the middle. The area along the south of the property line that you can see the parking spaces is the area in question. Some of that is part of the property that Mr. Aiello currently leased from the village or previously leased from the village and has recently purchased. And we're proposing to create that as part of the subject property, combining it into that one zoning area. So the idea is that we would like to pave that area. That's part of the subject proposal, and make it a functioning part of his yard as part of the process as well. You can see in the plan, there's that hatched area that kind of wraps around the building. The bubbled note up at the top talks about the fire department's inspection. I met out there at the site with Chief McIsaac, and we worked through how the fire lane would work. It's basically the existing fire lane, which is now documented in this plan. So that's what you're seeing there. And then the other areas are just the definition, as Mr. Silva was defining for you, the uses that we're looking for, the heavy motor vehicle use, which is the now current code description of what has been occurring on the property for the last decade. And we're just defining those areas of the property that are heavy motor vehicle use storage and heavy motor vehicle use parking. So that's how they're labeled. He also has 6 employees on the subject property, and we've provided for both employee and guest parking along that south property line. So he intends to be able to provide both use for his staff, guests, and equipment and storage that is part of his current business on that. So that's essentially in a nutshell the plan. So unless there are any questions for me directly, I'd turn it back to Justin. Is that?
I can ask, if you wouldn't mind giving a little overview of business day-to-day.
How you doing? I'm Pete Aiello. I've owned it for 11 years, and I need the space just for a little more parking, a little more organization. As you can see in the picture, it doesn't look very organized. I looked at it and I was not very impressed by it either. So, I mean, it just flows so much better if I have that corner piece. I mean, it really makes a big difference for me to just, the ones that are going to be there for a little while, get out of the way, and the ones that are coming in and out every single day can get in and out a lot easier. We're not jockeying trucks, because it's a game of Tetris. It totally is. It's, I didn't expect business to grow the way it did. I mean, the trucking companies in Wheeling have grown, so unfortunately it laid on top of me, you know, and when we started, I think we were only 4 employees, now we're 6, and, you know, I don't know how much more we're going to grow, but I could definitely use the room. And we start at 6 in the morning, we're done by 5 o'clock at night. We're not even doing any more road service at night, so we're not bothering anyone as far as at late hours at night, you know. That's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
So that really kind of is an overview of what we're asking. I can certainly recite the requests if you'd like, and the standards. I don't know if...
Well, we'll see if we have any questions that you can clarify then.
And I guess at this point, then I'd just like to open it up for any questions that...
All right. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to speak on this matter, I see none. So we can go to the commission. Let's start with Commissioner Creech. You look too relaxed down there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question mostly relates to the parking and storage, excuse me. In that southwest corner, you're talking about heavy motor vehicle storage area. What are we talking about? Parking there? Or what are you talking about storage there when you say heavy motor vehicles in that area?
So the code defines a difference between heavy motor vehicle parking and heavy motor vehicle storage. And the real difference that if you look at the code, if the vehicle's there for more than 48 hours. Yeah, if the vehicle's there for more than 48 hours, then it's technically storage. So when we originally had talked to staff and had submitted our first submittal, it really wasn't clear on the site plan designated where these sections and areas would be. So we wanted to provide that to you exactly. This is the area that's going to be used for storage. This is the area that's going to be used for parking, because those are different uses under your code and different special uses.
But my question is, what are you going to store on that pad?
Sure. Let me have Kevin answer that for you.
So let me try and answer that, because I worked with Pete in trying to figure out how we were laying the site out. Basically, he runs a diesel mechanic business where he does repairs on diesel vehicles that come in. So if somebody had a truck or a bus or something that needed repairs, he would bring it into the site, park it somewhere, and then bring it into the building, do the repairs on it, put it back out in the yard. Somebody would come and pick it up, and he's got parts and vehicles that he moves around. So when we talk heavy motor vehicle, that's sort of maybe an unusual term. It's a term that's in your code that relates to anything that I believe is greater than 6 wheels. So anything that's like an RV, a bus, a truck, is defined as a heavy motor vehicle. Well, that's what he works on, diesel trucks. So, Commissioners, that sort of what you were trying to understand is what he was doing and why he's putting things there?
So if he gets a vehicle into his site, and of course all his stalls are in the building are all filled up, he's going to put that vehicle in the vehicle parking area until he has room in his shop so that he can work on it, and then he takes the one from the shop and puts it on the parking area pad until the owner comes and picks it up, correct?
That's absolutely part of it, yeah. The other part is perhaps that there's some vehicles that are parked there or parts that he's keeping to be able to service vehicles. For example, that's part of the storage component, that there might be things that aren't part of a vehicle that's coming and moving in the process, but might actually be staying on site because he's got a storage yard where he might, let's just say, keep a stack of tires or engine parts that he's using that are available to him.
So that heavy motor vehicle storage area would include tires and miscellaneous parts?
It would be various parts, yes. I would defer to Mr. Aiello on exactly what they would be, but it changes from time to time. I mean, it's not storing something there permanently, but it might be there for more than 48 hours.
Well, Mr. Aiello stated earlier that he was a little embarrassed about the way his yard looked when he saw that overhead picture. And that's a little bit of what I'm concerned about as far as parts and equipment and abandoned parts and tires and everything else that seem to be all over his site. I just don't want to have all that in that designated heavy motor vehicle storage area. Because like you said, there's a difference between storage and parking.
Correct, right. I understand. So there's a component.
So as far as our code, there's a difference as far as storage and parking. So if there's vehicles that are all the way up to say that east fence, then that wouldn't be considered storage. I would think that would be considered parking.
No, vehicles can be stored if they're there for longer than 48 hours. So that's why it's heavy motor vehicle storage. So if something's being stored there, that means it's not going in and out constantly.
Okay.
So
That's the distinction versus you park your car, you pull it up in the morning, you leave to go to work, it's constantly moving.
So you can store parts or a truck in the definition of the word. If it's there for more than 48 hours, okay.
Yes.
So is part of this storage area for like people renting spots as well?
No. No,
Not at all?
That's not part of the program. And part of the designation here is that we're not creating an open season on the entire lot. It's storage is in defined areas, parking in other areas, and we tried to work that out. So where are parts of the site that are, things are going to be more accessible to moving in and out, things that might be there for a few weeks before they get worked on. It's going to park them out a little bit more out of the way. That's sort of the program to try and, to use his words, to create a little bit more space on the Tetris board.
Well, I like what you presented here as far as him trying to get more organized, which it looks like this would help him a lot. I just want to say that I don't want to see, you know, stuff stored all over the place like he has now, since he's got all this extra area and he's getting rezoned. So I think that, you know, he's going to have to comply a little bit better than what he has been in the past.
Yeah, understandable. And that's kind of the goal of the plan and why we designated specifically certain areas. And if you can, I know it's difficult to see, but the storage mainly for the heavy motor vehicle is actually in the corner furthest away from Wheeling Road versus the parking for heavy motor vehicle is closer to where the garage doors would be and closer to Wheeling Road, because those are the vehicles that are going to be moving a lot more often. So this is really a plan to kind of clean that up in a way.
I see that. I hope that'll help you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanova.
Thank you. Yeah, that was also my concern. I was thinking like it's a kind of thin line between a little storage or kind of like a junkyard, you know what I mean? For used parts waiting for a chance to be used. But I think you just cleared. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I must apologize. I actually am going to be stepping away, and Dan is going to be finishing up. I have another hearing that just is overlapping with this one, so I apologize about that. Okay.
We were going to practice, you know, the slap for the WWE's wrestling, but, and we apologize that this is a little choppy, but we have overlapping commitments, so I'm going to stand in for Justin, who's done a terrific job so far. So if there are any other questions, I'm happy to take it. Okay. I think Brad has that same hearing that Justin has.
Oh.
So we're just kind of shift our team a little bit right here.
All right. Commissioner Powers.
Thanks. So there are defined areas for a heavy motor vehicle and the storage and the parking. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, are those individually fenced off areas, or the heavy motor vehicle, on this diagram here, it shows it's 30 by 30. Is it a 30 by 30 concrete pad with a fence around it? What is it?
It is, and that's a great question, because we were trying to be able to figure out.
Or is it like an imaginary area?
Yeah, we were trying to figure out how to illustrate that to you, and it's not fenced in because that wouldn't be practical, right? So do we, take a piece of chalk and do the, so it's not really that defined, but it is an area, you could say it's imaginary, but it's an area that we've identified on the site plan, which we intend to be an area of separation.
Okay.
We don't have a piece of masking tape like you would in the back seat when your sister and you're in the back seat and you can't cross over that line. But it is an area to accomplish what Commissioner Creech was talking about, and that is, let's keep stuff separate and more organized.
So there is some kind of distinguishing between what a light motor vehicle and what a heavy motor vehicle. I'm hearing heavy motor vehicles like, 6 wheels or more, diesel, and I assume a light motor vehicle would be something less than that.
Correct.
Okay. What is being done with the fencing around the property? I know when this was continued, I believe we had fences of multiple heights possibly. Are you, I know, what kind of fencing, or what are you doing with the fencing? Is it a continuous height? And then I was reading something about the privacy screening there's like green privacy screening fencing. So are we looking at a couple different types of fence types with different heights?
We're working with staff. I thought we were working with staff on that one, and I don't think there was any intent to do any new fencing.
I mean, just what's going on with the fencing in general around the property? That's kind of what I want to know.
There is an exhibit here that notes just the red areas here for the new fenced area.
So is that the green privacy fencing there that's going there?
I can answer that very
No, that's fine.
So if you look in where it says 45 LF, right in
Yep.
front of it, that fence actually broke. So Palumbo, Orange Crush, whatever they are, they put a fence this way that you can't see in this picture, but basically where that red line goes to the other red line, there's a temporary fence there. So all I did was close off that fence rather than, that's the fence we're going to take down anyway, rather than put it back up. He's putting up a wood fence, and then I'm just going to mate up to his wood fence. With my wood fence.
Oh, okay.
He is your neighbor to the south?
He's my direct neighbor to the south, yes.
Okay,
You can't see him there, but where that red line ends, that 13 LF and the 45 LF, he has a temporary fence up right now. So all I did was close it off with the green fence, rather than put up the wood fence that we're going to take back down.
Okay. And the fire department's okay with the fire lane and all that, so they're not getting the 20 feet and...
Yeah, that was a given condition originally anyways because of the constraints of the site. But that was an existing condition. It's 20 feet except for those two identified areas, and that's fine.
So is the identified area, the 10 feet, is that like the back of his building there? Because is it like a 10-foot fire lane that runs for like the entire length, the rear of the building? I'm just kind of curious, looking at the plan that we just had up there. There were two spots indicated where it looked like the 20 feet wasn't there, but it looked like in between there, it was 10 feet in width. Is that correct?
No, it's pretty much consistently 20 feet through the back, except for where there's two bump-out corners of the building restrict it, and I don't even recall what the dimension is.
Oh, that's fine.
You get past it and you're at your 20 feet.
Okay. I don't know if it was, I believe it was, I have something written down, 10-foot setback required versus a foot and a half setback proposed. Where is that on the site here, just from my knowledge?
So before I answer your question, so what's important to remember with respect to these two variations is that these are existing conditions.
No, that's fine. I just want to know.
So we just want to make these conforming.
I just want to, if you could indicate for me where that is.
So the foot and a half variation, is that what we're talking about? So if you were to look at the proposed new fence line there, because it doesn't show it shows the existing. If you look at the striped spaces and then it notches over, that's how it is now. So now they're just going to go back further 14 feet.
Can you show me that with the mouse? Where's that? I'll make this bigger.
Look at the striped parking spaces there, those short ones. Yeah.
Oh, that. Oh, I see. Okay. And just so I know, when we had the aerial view and you had the trucks parked into the strip, I think you said the village gave you some land. Is that actually the part of the north part of Commercial Drive?
Okay, yes. If you see all those trucks parked right there in front of my building, that's actually all, you see how my fence jogs right there?
Yeah.
That jog is actually my property line. Where that line is there, goes straight across all the way to the street.
So that is what used to be the north side of the Commercial Drive that now you have?
I was renting that from the village monthly, and that was actually, we repaved it 2 years ago.
Oh, that's fine. I just was kind of curious, so that is the north end, okay. The only other thing I have is, we're supposed to ask about bicycle parking. Is there, I don't know why, I'm not sure why we would have that, but do you allow people?
Inside.
Huh?
They bring their bike inside. It won't
That's
get wet
fine.
in the rain. I mean,
All right. I really have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorband.
Thank you. I think I'm probably the only commissioner was on this, and the commission when you first came to us.
You're the original, right?
So we have history. But first I'm going to preface it by, when you first came to us, I had a real concern about how it was going to look up on Wheeling Road, but you have really taken care of it. It looks clean. Every time I drive by there, it's clean. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I do have concern about, what the aerial view, as you pointed out yourself. And what are your plans to clean it up?
Well, my plans are to, obviously, if I can move the fence over on the proposed property, it'll give me so much more parking. It will be organized, because I have shelves over there that I can't even get to sometimes, because there's customers drop trucks up. They don't want to hear, bring it to me in 4 days. They never want to hear that, because you tell them that, they go somewhere else. I mean, that's the truth. What do you mean you're not going to look? Okay, get it over here. I'll look at it, and then I'm always waiting 2-3 days for a part. So the 48-hour thing that they propose is storage or non-storage, it always takes a day or two to get a part. I mean, you can't get everything like that. It's not a Honda. It's not, you can't call Napa for everything. You got to, most of the time you go to a dealer for a part, and that takes a day or two to get. And that's why it winds up having extra vehicles there all the time. And that's my biggest problem,
Are you planning on any kind of maybe additional storage area to put some of these parts in? I mean,
As far as parts, I'm not, well, most of the parts are inside. If there's,
I was just saying, if you've got so many vehicles inside, is there enough room, or are you going to need to expand to add more space for yourself?
well, there's really 5 mechanics in there, and it allocates usually two bays per mechanic. I have 26 bays. That's not the issue. I mean, if I hired 2 more mechanics, I'd still have enough room. It really doesn't affect that. What affects is waiting for your parts. So either you got to push the truck out, which is not easy to do, or you leave it inside, or you go outside, you diagnose it outside, and then you bring it in when you got the part. I mean, that's how it works, They're not easily pushed around. I mean, everything requires a forklift to push it around, or a tractor to pull it with a chain.
The only thing I would ask of you is that, you would promise to clean
I
this
will.
up a bit.
Absolutely will. That looks terrible. I agree with you.
And then the other question is, we did have something from staff saying that the requirement should determine by the Plan Commission. The plan calls for a total of 15 light motor vehicle stalls and 6 heavy motor vehicle parking stalls. The Plan Commission may wish to ask the petitioner how this parking is sufficient for the proposed uses.
Well, when Kevin and I went over everything, he wanted it all separated, and that's hard to do, because there's different lengths of trucks, all different types. You got a semi that's 20 feet, and then you got straight trucks that are 35 feet. So as far as putting all the little ones together and all the big ones together is the only way we can do it. And because we get 14 feet more with that fence moved over there, you put all the bigger, longer trucks towards the back, you don't see them from the road as easy. I mean, that's why we came up with the plan that we came up with. And if the ones that don't run, you put further away, out of the way, so you can get them inside and work on them. The ones that run, you put in the stalls right up front, you bring them in as soon as you can. I mean.
And I know the kind of business you're in, it doesn't appear that you can do a lot of grandiose landscaping, but, what can you do for us, I guess is my question.
Where am I going to put it?
Well,
On the
I was
front
just
is the
hoping
only-
for something.
It's only in the front that you can put it, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
replaced, we put all that line of bushes up when we did it 10 years ago, and 3 of the bushes died, we replaced them. I mean, I don't know what else. And if I put any tall trees, when we're pulling out and you're in a truck and you're up high, you're with branch height. It's a visual thing. Do you remember the argument we had about putting the trees behind the sidewalk instead of in front of the sidewalk? Because when we pull out, it blocks your vision. You can't see. Trees don't start branching until they get this high. Well, if you're in a truck this tall, that's your line of vision. Pulling out on a Wheeling Road is not easy.
No, it's
So,
not.
I mean, if you want me to put a couple more trees up front, they'd have to be behind the sidewalk, because you're just going to block the vision, and plus the power line people would probably not want them under the power lines.
Okay.
I mean, if you want me to try and squeeze, I know I could probably get 2 to 3 more trees in there of the same kind that are there now.
I mean, I don't want to,
As
you know,
long as they're
prohibit
behind
a
the sidewalk.
sight line or anything. But
Right.
it would be nice if we could add just a little to soften it up, because that is a,
Okay, so you want, what do you want, the same style tree that's there now? I think they're birches.
think.
Is that correct?
that's probably something
even
that
remember.
the commission may want to vote on. I don't know, take an opinion. That's only my opinion, obviously. But I certainly don't want to worry about the, you know, the sight line for them pulling in and out.
Well, if they stay behind the sidewalk, it's not an issue, but they can't be in front of the sidewalk. I mean, I go over to YRC Freight, and I pull out every day grabbing a truck, and every day I grab the steering wheel and pray that, because I can't see. Once the leaves come in, you can't see. You know, they flourish so nice. They're great, but they need to be further back is all. Can't be in front of the sidewalk, that's all. I don't have a problem with that. That's the only place I could put, maybe I could get another tree over in front of that number 13. Would that help you? I mean, we could do that. We're going to move the fence. We can put three, probably 4 bushes and a tree in front of there. That we could do. I mean, that wouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay, that's my only questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Kalis.
All right, thank you very much, Chairman. I had some questions, but I think they're all, mine was about the fence as well, like Commissioner Powers. And I would tend to agree that it does look a little alarming from the air, but I'm not expecting to drive by in an airplane. So, you know, like driving on the street, my question was if the fence is tall enough to block it all, like as long as you don't start piling up stuff that goes above the fence, which I'm sure you would not, because that projects on your business. So I'm sure so just to clarify, the bottom of these red lines straight across is where the new property line's going to be? That's the land you bought from?
I don't see the
Like-
bottom of is there an imaginary
Those
line?
red lines that go down.
There's an imaginary line there? Oh, yes.
Connect.
So if you took that 13 where it ends
Yeah.
towards the bottom and that 45 where it ends towards
Straight
the bottom,
across.
there's going to be a straight line.
Okay, so you're getting that much extra land, that's great.
Right.
Yeah, I think you'll be able to arrange things in a nicer way, but,
That fence is 8 foot tall
Okay.
right now. Unfortunately, trucks are 13 feet, you know.
sure. I just don't want tires and, you know,
No.
engines and stuff, like, that's, obviously trucks are trucks.
Right.
I think you have the benefit of the fact that there's a field behind there, so there's nobody from the other side looking in,
Yeah,
so.
all you have is the railroad track.
Right, so there's tracks, well, there's trains, but,
Right.
so my concern about this visual was, you know, when I thought about, I'm only 5'7", so I'm not gonna see over an 8-foot tall thing. In a car, you won't see it, so I'm not as concerned about that. And then, yeah, landscaping, it'd be nice to have more, but like you said, do the best you can. I'm sure you would like to make it look as nice as possible, but you still got power lines everywhere, so it's like,
Yeah, exactly.
a tree makes it look so nice, but, I was curious if you were actually storing anything there, which was answered. And then previous gentleman said that you were going to expand, and that was my question about how much are you going to expand. So I'm good. I'm excited for you to have more space where you can do things as you wish.
No Tetris.
But of course, you'll probably grow even more, and then we'll be here in 5 years and have another
I
conversation.
can't go nowhere. No, in 5 years, Palumbo's going to buy me. He'll take it over.
Alrighty. But as long as the fence is intact and 8 feet tall and blocks, you know,
Yeah.
the majority of the stuff, I'm fine with that.
There was some kind of variance. Somebody said something about the fence being different height. I don't know where that came from. Durabel built my fence. It was set at 8 foot. They're 8-foot dog.
I don't know, it may have been on a previous
I've seen it too.
submission.
I don't
The
understand
original
who said-
submittal had conflicting
Yeah.
language regarding this, the
I never went
fencing
out there and
height,
physically
and it's
measured
since
all the
been
different ones, but I know it's even. all
Clarified,
around.
it's
Okay,
one
okay,
height.
Cool.
Okay.
That's it for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That leads to me. And I think just about everything's been covered. I'm glad you got to see the aerial view here. And
I'm glad I don't travel on a plane.
well, obviously, you don't have the 20-foot fire lane in that picture.
No, and that's definitely the issue. I mean, they come in and, all right, put it towards the back, and then they just start working their way forward, and then the lane goes away.
Let's see, is everything else addressed? All right, do we need to take a poll on the landscape suggestion from Commissioner Dorband?
I have drafted a condition of approval. If you'd like, I can read it.
Sure.
Provided vision is not obstructed for trucks exiting the site, additional shrubs and a tree shall be added in front of the new 13 linear feet of fencing along Wheeling Road.
Is that acceptable?
Absolutely.
Commissioner Dorban?
Is there a specific tree you want, or can I match the other ones, or is that what you want?
I would think
What
it
do you
should
have?
match what
There's
you have,
three
as
of them.
long as it's a
There's three of them
hardy
already.
species.
Okay. Is it what?
As long as it's a hardy
Okay.
species.
Yep.
Okay, everybody good with that?
Yes.
All right. Any other comments from the commission?
I only have one
Sure.
thought, is that, you know, it's nice that you've done so well that you are expanding.
Thank you.
And that's good. We're glad to have you back, have you staying here. Thank
Well,
you.
only 5 more years. I'll be 55, and I want to take it easy.
And I just would like to echo what Commissioner Doorman said. I go by there every day, and it's just amazing, you know, there isn't more out in the front. I mean, it seems to me like it's always under control, and your building is really in good shape, so good for you.
We're trying. It's not easy, I'll tell you that. And every year I pay a landscaper to come in and trim the bushes. I stopped even doing that. I'm like, you know what, just do it. Make it nice. You know, I'm not Edward Scissorhand by any means, so let him do it.
All right, if there's nothing else, do I hear a motion on 2017-19A, the rezoning?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Wait.
Okay,
There's so many here.
we're on A.
Okay, who was the motion?
Commissioner Doorman and Blanova.
And Blanova. Mr. Secretary, I think we can go ahead.
Ready? Commissioner Doorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Creech.
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis.
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes, and Chairman Johnson.
Yes. On 2017-19B, special use site plan approval for heavy motor vehicle outdoor storage.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Powers, who seconded?
Commissioner
Kalis.
Kalis?
Powers made the motion.
Yes.
Oh. And that had the conditions on it, correct?
Okay.
They should all have the same conditions, the two that are noted in the staff report, as well as the one that I just drafted. We're talking about the special uses.
Yes, all three
Yes.
special uses. Okay.
So all of them have to have the conditions attached?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes, I'm sorry. Dozed off.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Kalis.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Creech.
Yes.
Commissioner Doorman.
Yes.
And Chairman Johnson.
Yes. On 2017-19C, special use site plan approval for heavy motor vehicle parking lot.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Powers, Commissioner Blanova, seconded. Commissioner Powers, or Secretary, go ahead.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Creech.
Yes.
Commissioner Doorman.
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Next, we have 2017-19D, special use site plan approval for heavy motor vehicle repair. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Got Kalis and Blanova seconded.
That was quick and loud.
Ready?
Go ahead.
Commissioner Kalis.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Creech.
Yes.
Commissioner Doorman.
Yes.
And I'm voting yes. And Chairman Johnson.
Yes. And finally, we have 2017-19E, the zoning variations related to parking setback and minimum green space.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Dorban and Commissioner Creech. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Doorman.
Yes.
Commissioner Creech.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis.
Yes.
Commissioner Powers votes yes. And Chairman Johnson.
Yes. You hit 100%.
All right.
Thank you. Do we need to sign something?
We'll have lots for
In
you
a
to
minute.
sign.
Gonna get writer's cramp.
Oh, do I hear a motion to close this public meeting?
So moved.
Public hearing.
Second.
Just voice.
Voice, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Can you give me who made the motion on B?
B was Powers and Gillis. I didn't get either.
That's fine, I got it.
Welcome, Commissioner Callis.
Thank you.
Is it Callis or Kalis?
It's Kalis. Thanks for asking.
Welcome, I
Yes.
apologize for that.
No, you're all good.
No dinners tonight?
You remember?
No, the other guy had the dinner.
You know, took his place. You know, I'm kidding.
Okay, away we go.
I'll take. Yeah, dude, he's got some. All three should have conditions, also three special. That's your copy. If you could sign those, and then I'll take one, and you'll take one. This is yours.
That one. It's like buying a car. There's two more. This is the last one.
Yep.
He's just, he's out of town. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
The 19th, March, right?
Yeah.
It's the next available
That's the
meeting.
next available
If that works for you, we'll work towards that. You can let us know.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, if we can get it all set up, yeah. Agenda's due 15th.
All right. Docket number 2018-3A and B, Mexico Mufflers and Brakes. As previously mentioned, the petitioner has requested that this be continued to a date certain of March 22nd of this year. So do I hear a motion to continue this?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Too late.
Commissioner Powers and Commissioner Blanova.
I thought I was coming out tonight. I guess not.
Mr. Secretary.
Feeling better today.
Commissioner Powers, vote yes. Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorvan?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
And Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Docket number 2018-4, Wingspan Development. 889 to 903 Dundee Road, concept review of a mixed-use retail and residential planned unit development. Good evening.
Good evening.
Name and address, please.
Chris Coleman, 1001 Feehanville Drive, Mount Prospect.
The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to come in tonight and go through this concept review. This is a plan that we worked with Ms. Jones and staff on, a couple different revisions to try to get it to a point where we think it's a very good start. So the property is Dundee Plaza, which is approximately 500 feet west of Elmhurst Road on the south side of Dundee Road, immediately adjacent to Dunhurst Plaza and right next to London Middle School. The property has about 800 feet of frontage along Dundee, and it currently has two buildings on it. One that's approximately 28,000 square feet that's partially occupied, and another one that's about 40,000 square feet that's totally vacant. The site is 11 and a half acres, and it's a little bit of an unusual shape in that it extends further south for a portion of it. This is the site plan as revised after discussions with staff. It shows that we've taken the property and divided it really into two uses. So we've taken the south portion of the property and we've designed that for row homes. These are rear-loaded townhomes for sale. We've taken Jenkins Court and we've extended it west, and then it bends north into the parking lot. This north bend would be a one-way out controlled by signage. Each of the townhomes has space behind the townhome for two cars. So you have two cars in the garage, two cars behind the townhome, and then we have additional parking along the main collector road, and then we have additional parking here at the end. In discussions with the fire department, we were very sensitive to the length of these motor courts and then making sure we had room at the end for snow storage so there wasn't any blockage. And we an initial version of the plan had a cul-de-sac here, so the street terminated in a cul-de-sac. And based on comments from the fire department and public safety, we determined that it would be better just to extend this all the way through. The north side of the property is redesigned for retail space with three buildings. The existing buildings are designed from a different time period for different commercial users. These spaces are designed for what today's tenants want and need to operate their businesses. So as an example, each one of these buildings is designed with a drive-through. So we would have 3 drive-through opportunities in this development. Also, the depth of the spaces is designed at 80 feet, substantially less than what's out there now. And we have more than adequate parking based on the code. We eliminate an access point. Right now, there's an access point immediately adjacent to this exit from London, and then there's another driveway right in. We take that driveway out. We maintain this driveway here as a full access, and then we control this. One of the unique things about this property is that this is Dunhurst to the east, this is Dundee Plaza to the west, but they share this entrance where on the Dundee Plaza side, traffic is entering the property, and on the Dunhurst side, traffic is exiting the property. So we worked with staff to develop an appropriate traffic flow and traffic restrictions to make sure that people don't try to exit this building A and try to exit out, because they need to come through, cycle through the property and then come out on this east drive aisle to exit out onto Dundee. The property, so as I mentioned, you've got about 60,000 square feet of retail space on the property as it exists today, and this is right around 35,000 square feet of property. Of retail space rather. Each of these buildings is about 16,000 square feet, and then this one here, which would be a single user, is about 3,700 square feet, as is currently shown. This is a concept elevation of the retail. So it's a very attractive, contemporary retail design, commercial design. As I mentioned, the flexibility within the space, we can have users that require limited space, or we can have someone that would come in and take perhaps 3 spaces. So the building provides much more flexibility in terms of approaching the market and securing a tenant than the existing buildings do. This is concept architecture for the row homes. The row homes are designed, the concept elevations that were drawn by BSB, same firm that did Northgate. We've got 2 different designs here. One that shows what's sometimes referred to as an English basement, where you enter on a split foyer, and the non-English basement where you enter at grade. And the reason for this is that we haven't completed the engineering, so we're not exactly sure how the topography of the site is going to work at completion. So we wanted to show both of these to you so that you could get an idea that they're both equally attractive. This is the floor plate of the townhome. So this is the main level, or the level at grade, with the 2-car garage space. This is the first level up, the main living level, and then the bedrooms would be on the next level up. A couple of things. I'll go back to the site plan. The property is in a TIF district, and we will be taking advantage of the TIF, requesting to take advantage of the TIF, and it's primarily related to the soil conditions on the property and detention. So the soil, there's a couple of characteristics of the soil. One, there's a very high moisture content based on the soil borings that we did. There's also some geotechnical issues related to the stability of the soil, so we anticipate that we're going to have to do some cut and fill on this western portion of the property. Some of the soils, the existing soils that are there, look like they were actually filled from some time ago, so we would remove those soils and replace them with structural fill. There's also some old foundations right around this midsection on the western part of the property. And then the neighbors to the south, there's an existing condition where this is a low area. There's actually the lowest point, there's a telephone pole, like right here, right in between these people's, like right on their property line. That's the lowest point of the property. So this is a wet area, and one of the things that we'll do with our engineering is capture this low area and then get it off the site. And that's another issue we show on this plan, is that we would be doing some kind of vault detention system here in the parking lot of the revised retail, and that's another part of our anticipated request under the TIF. But we do want to solve this low area drainage issue for these existing homeowners. One of the things that we like about the site in this use as opposed to its current use is this provides what's sometimes considered a natural transition of density or of planning, where today you've got these single-family homes that back directly up to commercial property. And typically what's more preferable is that you have a transition of use from single-family to some kind of attached single-family or multifamily, and then go to the commercial. One of the things that came up when we presented this to the board is that, and we mentioned that we would do this, there's some existing vegetation here along this south property line that, to the best of our ability, we'd like to try to keep, because even though the trees may not be the most attractive, they are grown trees and they provide some screening. But to the extent that those trees can't be maintained, we will provide a landscaping buffer here along this south property line. We will also provide it's shown here as a berm, but we'll also put some landscaping on top of this berm to provide some screening between the townhomes and the commercial. And one other thing regarding the townhomes, there was a question at the board that I just wanted to clarify, is that I think I misunderstood a question. I was asked if there was one plan, and I interpreted the question to mean one style of architecture, meaning row home. But really, within the row homes, there'll probably be 3 floor plans. So even though here on this schematic that shows just the footprints, within here we'll have probably 3 different floor plans that you can choose from. One basic architectural design, which is the row home design, but 3 different floor plans for people to choose from. So we are optimistic about the property and the prospects of redeveloping it. We can understand why it has not happened yet based on our due diligence, what it's revealed to date regarding the soil conditions. But for the TIF, we don't believe that this redevelopment would be viable because of the costs associated with particularly the soil conditions. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorband.
Oh, thank you. Well, I like the concept, but when I look at the density, I think it's way too dense. I also, on my first look at it, is there is not enough guest parking. And my third piece of it is, while you say you've addressed the snow, I don't see it. I don't see that there's enough space where you can store snow. Even, I mean, if you double the amount of guest spots, at least you would have a place to put snow if you needed to. But certainly it's not balanced as far as guest parking. You've got the guest parking all the way down to the left, but there's nothing up at the top. Can you explain to me why you think that's appropriate?
Well, I believe, and Ms. Jones can clarify this for me, but I believe we exceed the parking requirement under the zoning. We've got 2 spaces in each garage for the residents, then we've got 2 behind each row home, and then we have, it's a little bit difficult to see on this drawing because of the scale, but there are guest spots here, there's 3 there, there's 3 here, there's 3 here, there's 3 here.
I couldn't see them.
Yeah, and then we've got these extra ones down here. Another thing that's important to remember is that this street, even though this is a private driveway, it's designed to village street width. So it's a 28-foot wide street. So a guest could also, just as they could over here on Jenkins, if someone came, for instance, to visit this person, this resident, and they could park on the street because the street is wide enough to accommodate that. It's not a drive aisle or an alley condition. Even here, in discussions with staff, we kept this at 24 feet just to make sure that we could get adequate movement of vehicles into these motor courts. So I think part of it is, and when we come back for the formal presentation, as we complete our engineering work and we bring something in, we'll bring it in at a scale, and we can even include some car images on there so that you can see. But we feel very confident that this is adequate parking.
Well, after you pointed out the additional parking spaces, I do agree that there's enough there. Are these, the garages that are attached, are they standard size garages? We had another petitioner come in and they were different. So I want to make sure that these are standard size garages.
I believe these are what most people would consider standard size garages. So these homes, and again, we're not through the entire site planning process, but these townhome widths will be somewhere between 20.5 feet and 22 feet wide, which means that the interior of the garage would be a minimum of 19.5 feet, which is more than a typical parking stall in a parking lot is 8 feet wide, and a typical garage door is 16 feet wide. So at 19.5 feet, you would have enough room to pull your car in and easily open the doors.
And that we also are required to keep our garbage cans inside. So I want to make sure that there's enough room for.
There will, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's all my questions for right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Creech.
I really don't have any questions. Matter of fact, I think it looks pretty good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanova.
Thank you. I also don't have any questions. I would hate to see the empty plaza there. It's almost empty right now. Of course, it's going to be beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kalis.
Thank you very much. I live across the street in the neighborhood, and I'm very, very excited about the idea of redoing this area. I think it's a eyesore currently, and I like how it looks, so I appreciate you bringing this to us. And and without any other detail, obviously. The garage thing was one thing that I was going to ask too, because we got into a discussion about 19 versus 20 versus 21 feet and parking, smart cars and like all this whole conversation about another development. So I'll be interested to see how that works out, but 19 and a half feet interior seems sufficient to me. So I appreciate the 2-car garages. Do you plan on anything, you put a berm in between the row homes and the stores, but are you going to divide anything with London on the west side? Is there going to be any trees or landscaping over there, or is it going to be wide open?
No, I think we did talk about a fence, but I don't think that we got into specifics about that. The one thing that we did do, you can see that we maintained a crosswalk here.
Right.
The other thing we did is that we have a sidewalk that runs all the way through up to Dundee.
Okay.
And really, this is primarily to capture if there's any school children that are coming down Jenkins, they can come up this sidewalk and then come through onto the property.
Yeah, I guess it's hard for me to visualize at this point if having a line of trees would be better or worse, or, if row homes and then a school is a good thing or not. I'm just trying to think. I didn't know I just want to ask if you had a plan over there, but.
No, I mean, we think it's going to be great. These townhomes lend themselves to people who are either starting out and have young children, or their children have already moved out.
Okay. The cut and fill you mentioned, you breezed over a little bit, but you literally like take out the ground and put in new stuff that's stronger, because can't remember who told me, but someone said that area was super moist and like it was going to be a problem to build on it. So the cut and fill is reinforcement basically?
It is exactly what it sounds like, to the extent that you come in and you cut out those soils that either have a high moisture content or not structurally sound, and then you import soils that have the compacting characteristics necessary to support the foundation.
Okay, that's great. And then the low area by the telephone pole, you said you're going to fix that for the home. Do the homes actually flood over there? Is that a problem with water getting?
I don't think it floods. I think it's just soupy.
Okay, so it would be a benefit for you to fix it for the benefit of these residents, I assume?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, I mean, I like that if you're helping these neighbors in the whole process, that's a good thing. And then I'm the newest commissioner, so I may just not know some of these things that other people do. This detention area behind Building B, what is?
This one here?
Just this whole, like where it says trash enclosure, what is going to go there? What is this area?
So this area would be just a low grassy area.
Oh, is that the berm?
So there's a berm here.
Okay.
So if you could imagine, you'd have a slight berm, and then on the commercial side of the berm, the slope would continue into a detention basin.
Okay.
And the basin would be primarily dry. The way MWRD's design guidelines are now is that you have 6 inches above the release point so that it holds water longer after a rain. But this area between the commercial and the row homes would be a grassy, low detention area. But we anticipate that we're going to need more capacity than that. So that's what prompts this little hashed line here, which is an underground vault detention system.
Okay, to take the water. Okay. I was just wondering why there's a big open area with nothing there, but if it's to retain water, then that makes sense. So there's one tenant in there. I just don't know. What happens with a tenant that's in there currently? Would you extend an offer to them to be one of the, how does this work?
Yeah, as the contract purchaser, we don't own the property right now. We're a contract purchaser subject to the zoning. But when we take title to the property, then we would become his landlord or their landlord, and then we would operate under the terms of their lease. So we would negotiate with them some kind of agreeable solution.
Okay. Because you would demolish the building there and now?
Yeah, we would demolish the building that's there, both buildings.
I've not been part of one of these where that happens, where, hopefully it goes friendly.
It will, it will.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Powers.
Thanks. On the west side of the property, you're kind of showing this is totally enclosed, so there's no way you could even take a car and go over to the London part, right?
You could not, no.
Okay. was there ever a thought to, like, sharing that driveway as like another way to go out, using the London Drive from this property and using that at all? I was just curious, like, I know at one time we talked, the village was talking about a stoplight somewhere, I don't know where that was, but, I guess.
That would be at that intersection if it were to ever happen.
Right, so the only question I had was, you know, Jenkins Court, you know, go out to the side instead of having to stay within the property and use the London driveway possibly as another way to get out. But if that's not what the intent is, that's fine. I'm just saying, I thought that that could be a possibility. It's fine, I'll move on. The far south side, you said, is either going to be, you're going to maintain a landscaping or put a berm there, right? And if you do put a berm there, it'll be, you'll have some landscaping on there?
Yeah, I don't think that we would put a berm here.
Okay, so you put some kind of fence maybe?
If we do put a berm, it would be to contain the overflow or the overland water flow.
Okay.
But we would try to more likely just do vegetation along this south property line.
Okay. Is there going to be any green space at all in the retail component, the north side of the property, or any of the? Is there going to be any landscaping at all, like in any of the parking islands or anything, or is it basically going to be building and, you know, parking lot surface? Will there be any landscaping in there at all in any of that area?
Well, we'll have the opportunities to do, or the opportunity rather, to do landscaping in these terminations of the parking aisles.
Okay, so I would just ask that if you would keep that in mind, to get some landscaping in there, I would appreciate that. And moving down to the south side where the row homes are, in between units where you show like 50 feet, like in between unit 13 and 18. So I assume if I were a guest, I'd park in one of the 3 guest spots there, and then that walkway feeds the entrances for all those units? Is that the way it is?
Correct. That's the front door.
And then you would have some kind of landscaping in there. So having said that, can you explain, if I were to drive in between unit 5 and 11 in the 61-foot space, what am I seeing there? Am I seeing like, I know that's where the garage entrances are, but are they like concrete driveways, or is it an asphalt area that has designated spots for like where the parking would be for those units? I mean, I assume you have 2 cars in the garage, and then you said there would be another 2 cars like outside the garage. How is that going to be defined? Is it just one area where everybody parks, or are you going to have like concrete driveways in that 61-foot area somewhere with like some kind of curbing in there? What is that area going to look like?
All right, so that's a good question. So behind the row homes, earlier we talked about the width of the garage door and the width of the actual townhome. So essentially, to make the math easy, you end up with about 2 feet from the garage door to the center line of the townhome. Then you got 2 more feet to the other townhome's garage. So you have a 4-foot wide section between the garage doors. And typically that 4-foot wide section is landscaped out to a distance of somewhere between 18 to 20 feet.
Okay.
And then that ends up being a green space. Typically you plant it with a very hardy ground cover because it's got to take the snow and the salt. But it does soften the parking area.
Okay.
In terms of who would park there, only you or your guests who are coming to see you would park there. No one else would park behind someone else's garage unless if I was having a party and I said, hey, I'm having some people over, do you mind if someone parks behind your garage?
So there wouldn't be curbs and gutters, but there would be these 4-foot defined spaces where you would, where you're, okay, and that would be great. That helps me out. And just so I know, again, in the 61-foot area, it's like where the bump out is, let's say between units 1 and 15 and 1635, that's just like a dead end. You have to turn around and come back. So everybody's coming out on Jenkins Court.
Everybody comes out on Jenkins Court.
Okay.
And the residents, let me touch on that point. So the residents, if you're coming out here, as a resident, you can go east on Jenkins to get to 83 to turn right. And this was one of the other benefits of putting this access into the shopping center, is you could also go this way to come out to Dundee to go east.
So where is
So that you don't have to, I'm sorry. So you don't have to come out here to Jenkins and 83 and turn left. So this access point helps mitigate people turning left onto 83 in peak hours.
So if I go out on Jenkins, but I head towards the west, towards the street, how do I get out onto Dundee? Are there 2 exit points there?
Yep, there's one here.
Okay.
Or you would just come, you would drive along here, or you could drive back here if you wanted to come behind, and you would just come right out here and drive right out.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about the snow removal. Parking seems to, be there in a way, so I guess, so far, so good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's it?
Yep.
First off, zoning for this is not a problem, right? That this is already,
If this will be
everything
a
falls into.
PUD, and like Mr. Coleman said, they are meeting the parking requirement for the residential, so they would not need any identified code relief for parking.
Okay.
But these are the types of uses that we're looking for in the MXT district.
Okay. You mentioned that the drive at the west end where Jenkins turns and goes up into the parking area is going to be one-way?
One-way controlled by signs, by signage.
Ooh. So if I lived in one of these townhomes and was coming home and wanted to use one of these drive-throughs, I would still have to go out on Dundee to 83 and come in off Jenkins.
From a practical standpoint, maybe not, but from a, really what we're trying to do is we're trying to just really notify people in the shopping center that this is not a way to go, that this isn't going to take you anywhere. So we're just trying to eliminate essentially people who are kind of lost that don't come this way, don't go this way. So, but if you live here, if you come home and you want to stop and grab a coffee or whoever ends up being in this center, and then you want to come to your townhome, you'll probably
violate the rule.
Violate the rule a little bit. Just between us.
Yeah, you want to rethink that to somehow make it okay, but not okay,
Yeah.
Because if you just designate it one way, I don't know. Would that be village enforced?
Why
at that point?
Yeah, it's a private road. I don't think it would.
Jenkins would be.
Cut through.
It's something we'll have to consider.
Yeah, and we can do things to make it more obvious where we can stripe, hash out so that it looks like the southbound lane no longer exists. There's other things that we can do to make it more obvious, but we don't anticipate a lot of traffic going, even the people who are trying to sneak in who live there, we don't anticipate a lot of traffic going south here.
And the road's still going to be the width of 2 cars though,
Correct.
right? So it wouldn't be a safety concern as
Right,
much.
but if they're going to designate it one way, then, you either do it or you don't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
What's the typical width of a village street?
28 feet, did they say?
Yeah, usually it's 28 feet back to back.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
I'm just wondering why anybody would want to go into the neighborhood if they didn't live there. Like, why?
You really wouldn't.
So I'm curious why you're making it a one-way. I know it's to keep the shoppers out of them, but I don't know. It just seems strange to.
We want those people in those townhomes to use that shopping center.
We're hoping that they will, that they're going to drive right out here, stop, get their coffee, and then jump on the road.
Okay, that Building A, the drive-through there, and you're going to have to try and force people to go around that.
Do a double hairpin.
Yeah, double hairpin there. That's going to be tough.
No, they're not. We're actually going to, I think we talked about this as an alternative, is that this curb would continue. So you wouldn't even be able to go.
Oh, okay,
out
so you
here.
want them to go left?
Yeah,
back
so when
around.
we come back, that's what you'll see.
Okay.
Is that they have to go,
Yes.
continue left, and then
There's
come
no
around
way
this way.
people would do that.
Yeah. You would ruin your car or your vehicle if you drove
Unless you have
over
a
that.
Jeep.
You could sit there every day and see somebody going out the wrong side of that driveway.
It's like a bus going through a fence.
Same with Lynn Plaza over here. You give them that much driveway and they forget where they're at. Let's see, what do I have? Oh, the sidewalks illustrated here, they look like carriage walks where the sidewalk is at the curb. I would suggest moving them away from the curb.
We can look at that.
Normal parkway sidewalk, because once it snows, you don't have a sidewalk. So that would be something to work on. And then, like by the trash enclosures, is that a sidewalk that runs behind the retail?
No, this here
That
is.
double line?
This line here?
Yeah.
No, I think this is a curb that comes along here, and then this is actually landscaped grass area, and then in this enclosure would actually be a fenced area that would
Okay.
be paved. And then this line here is just to delineate where the detention is.
Okay. How many bedrooms are these townhomes?
They would be 2 to 3, and then on the lower level, you would have a den, this level here, that could possibly be used. Most of the time it'd be used as like a family room or a office, but if you had a temporary guest, like an overnight guest, you might have a pull-out bed or something down there. But for the most part, 2 and 3 bedroom.
Well, I think it's very attractive. I always have concerns about strip malls in this town. We have a lot of empty storefronts right now. Do you have other developments that you can say, hey, look at this one, it's
We do.
very successful?
We do have one that's very similar to this in design, a little bit even more, what I would call more contemporary. This is a blend of contemporary and traditional that we did in Arlington Heights. And that one has a Sherman-Williams, it has a couple of smaller retailers, and then it has a Culver's as that outlot. And,
I know what it is.
And what we think is very different, so you can see the building here. Okay, this is the existing building of Dunhurst. And we are moving our buildings closer to the street. You got 25,000 cars a day on Dundee. And the existing building, you know, this one in particular is so far back off the street, and when you're approaching from the west, you can't even see it because of this tree stand here. You get, by the time you see the building, you know, you're right here. So there's no way you can even get in the lot. So we're moving our buildings closer to the street. The one that's the outlot would be right around here. So this will actually be visible from 83. That's part of our design, is that someone who is stacking at the light at 83 can actually turn their head and see that space. The other thing is the drive-throughs. There is a lot of retail in the village, but not a lot with drive-throughs.
Agreed.
So we believe that these end caps will make a significant difference in terms of the success of those businesses that have the end cap drive-throughs, but also the retailers that will be next to those users. That those users, that type of use drives more traffic, both drive-through and walk-in, and that in turn helps retailers who are next to those users.
I hope you're right. I think that's all I had.
Mr. Chairman, I
Any
have
other
a couple
comments?
more.
Commissioner Powers?
How are you going to handle mail delivery, mailboxes, and can you also address, maybe I'm not seeing it, garbage pickup? How's that going to happen?
So the garbage pickup,
And especially more for the residential.
okay, so for the residential, so the garbage cans will, as we talked about earlier, they'll be in the garage, and then just like a single-family situation, you'll put your garage out, or your garbage out, rather, by your garage. The garbage truck will back into these motor courts and then pick up the trash. In terms of mail, the Postal Service now mandates, essentially with every kind of new development, what they call it a gang box, but a common box. So, and then they have very specific guidelines as to what those look like. And they're typically mounted by the curb, so they're easy for the carrier to access the box. And they're typically in 12s or 16s with then a package box. So everybody gets a key to their individual box, and then if they get a package delivered, the package key goes into their slot, and then they can open up the package box.
So the garbage truck, you'll take your can and you move it all the way out to the end of the driveway, and then the garbage truck picks it up from there? Is that how that's going to work?
I don't know if you have to move it to the end of the driveway or just leave it by your garage.
Just make sure, you know, that's fine.
Yeah, I've got to work that out with
Yep.
waste management.
That's it, thank you.
Commissioner Dorban, you had something?
Well, I'm just talking about, we were talking about the garbage cans. Like in my complex, I have a sidewalk in front of mine. So I put my garbage cans in the sidewalk. In this particular case, I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah, that's why I asked about what that 61-foot area is going to
Yeah,
be.
I don't know how that's going to work with the garbage cans and the pickup.
Yeah, because I don't think there's going to be, probably won't be curb and gutter in there, so I just, that's kind of why I asked. I didn't know, I don't know.
And if you put them out anywhere, you're going to be blocking somebody's driveway. So I don't know.
Your own driveway.
Yeah, if you block a
It'll
driveway.
be your own driveway.
Yeah,
would only
but you're
block your own.
still going to be blocking somebody's driveway, period.
Well, these are all things
Yeah,
to
just-
consider.
Be things to consider when they get.
Right.
I'm making a list.
Well, it's something to think about now when
Oh, yeah,
at this stage.
because we're going to ask it
Otherwise-
again at the preliminary.
I have a question, I'm not even sure if it's appropriate for, I've never done a concept review. Is, for economically, did you address what the retail rate of these sorts of units is? Is that a thing yet? No? Just so we know
What
what
do you
sort
mean
of,
by retail?
like how
rate?
much are you going to sell these row homes for? How much are they going to cost?
For the
The
buyer?
2-3-bedroom, 1,900
so-
square foot, 2-car garage, just curious.
Right. So I can tell you that preliminarily, we anticipate that these would be in the either high 290s or low 300s to
Okay.
start.
Okay, I'm just curious with like the market, what it's, if it's too high or too low, so, cool. That's it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have two questions. The exit to Dundee, are they right in, right out, or are they going to be able to go west?
They're right, this one is a full access. There's actually two full access curb cuts right now. There's a full access here and a full access here. We're maintaining this one in the center of the property. This one is a in only
On your side.
Can you turn west?
on our side. You could turn west from this one. To turn west here, you have to go onto the Dunhurst Plaza side, and you can turn west from there.
It's the same as how it is right now?
So both of them, you'll be able to exit west?
Correct.
Okay.
And even this one here, you could exit west, which is,
I thought
that's not gonna
that one's closed.
we are eliminating that one.
That's eliminated. My other question is the detention area, is that a dry basin?
It's what would traditionally be considered a dry basin. The way MWRD's guidelines are now, they have the release point is 6 inches above the bottom of the basin.
So it's going to be, is it going to be regular grass, or is it going to be
It has,
like wild foliage.
Yeah, they call it
weeds.
a natural grass. But it has to be a little bit hardier than like sod because it will be wet longer. It's not a wet bottom detention basin, but it has to be a hardy enough planting material.
So it will be maintained. When it's dry enough, you'll be able to cut it?
I don't know that you would cut it. That'll be part of, as we go through the engineering design process, that'll be something that will be clearly defined in the engineering submittal, what the actual planting materials will be on the bottom of that basin.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Anything? So we are looking for a vote to move this along then?
Yes.
So do I hear a motion to?
So moved.
It's
how's this worded?
not a formal approval, it's just kind of a, I guess, consensus on if everyone is okay with it proceeding forward.
Okay, so it's not really a vote.
Correct.
Rookie over here.
All right, Commissioner Creech, do you believe they should go ahead and
Absolutely.
work on the preliminary? Commissioner Kalis?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorband?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Absolutely.
Commissioner Powers?
Yep.
And I concur. So
I'm gonna throw you.
Great.
start working on it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
You didn't even get your chance.
I know.
Come on.
Ms. Blanova is too quick for me.
She's
I
on
was
spot
trying my
tonight.
best to be a little loud. and
Quiet, but
fast
she's
today.
fast. So
Usually I'm too shy.
so we don't have to sign this? Or?
No.
Stay
He came
hydrated.
in late. Is he a resident?
I need a lot of hydrating.
All right. Approval of minutes for February 22nd, 2018. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. I don't know if you need to.
Moved by Commissioner Powers, seconded by Commissioner Blanova. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Other business? Brooke, do you have any other business?
No.
Mallory?
Yeah.
You never get to talk much.
No, I'm good.
Commissioner Creech?
I have a question. What's going on with the Garden Fresh site? Any movement on that parcel at all? Seems like that's been torn down for a long time and that concrete pad is still there and it's
We have no,
unsightly and
no applications on file right now.
you had some interest before, didn't you?
There was some preliminary interest, but nothing that materialized into a concept review.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing that's still there is the Liquor Island. Even the
Is it a laundromat
It's on
still
an
there?
island.
No, laundromat's closed a long time ago.
I miss Frank's a lot. That was my spot. Anyone remember that? Frank's a lot over there? I do. Okay, moving on.
Ah,
Good
good
cheese
for you.
fries.
Commissioner Kalis, anything else?
Yes, very important. I am entering my upper 30s next week, so you all won't be here. You can bring gifts at the next meeting on the 22nd. So, yeah, that's all for me.
Okay, rather self-serving, but Commissioner Dorband?
It's an announcement. It's my birthday coming up.
Just want to remind everybody that the State of the Village and the State of the City will be March 14th, and our guest speakers will be President Horker and Mayor Helmer. It's 8 o'clock at the Ramada at 1090 Milwaukee. For members, it is $30. For non-members, it is $45. You can call the chamber at 847-541-0170, and we will be glad to register you. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanova?
Thank you. I just want to congratulate ladies with the International Women's Day. That's all. Thank you.
Commissioner Powers?
I will not be here in the next meeting. That's it.
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And let's see, do I have any other business? Work has started again at the Whitley.
Okay.
like 5 cars there this week, so. They've been working inside, I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're starting to drywall, but that's all I have. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are done.